Very good evening, one and all present here. I'm really happy to welcome each one of you on behalf of the core team members of Mental Health Webinar Series and the associating institutions like Department of Psychology, the American College Madurai, Meta School of Social Work Chennai, MHLM Institute Madurai, and the Psycho-Oncological Association Turkey, and Redmond Education Psychological Research Center Madurai. I welcome the today's resource person, Ms. Eunice Jemima. She is an assistant professor of Department of Social Science, Lady Toe College, Madurai, and she is teaching psychology courses over there. And also, I welcome all the participants for today's webinar session. With that note, I request the resource person to little more inputs regarding your professional experiences, and then we can take over the session. We are eagerly waiting for you. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Over to you, Ms.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity that you have given me and to my colleagues at the Department of Social Sciences at Lady Toe College. I've been teaching at the Department of Social Sciences in Lady Toe College for the past 1.5 years. And it's my privilege to be somehow included in the American college community. All through my life, all my brothers and my uncles have somehow been associated with the college, and it's a great honor for me, sir. All right, so I guess I can carry on with my session, right? All right, so I know spiritual well-being is kind of a difficult topic to talk about, because not always do we all agree upon the spirituality aspect of our life. And so, like, I wanted to take a different look at it and have a different approach and see what really was spiritual well-being, and how does our spiritual lives, help us in our well-being in our everyday life. So I was thinking about the past year that we've had. To be honest, I guess all of us will agree it's been a year since we realized that life was not be the same for us. It was not normal. It really went crazy. Where we at the things that usually brought us together, like music and sports, those things that brought us together when we were having difficult times, were the very things that we were asked not to do anymore. We couldn't meet up with our family members. We couldn't visit, and we couldn't be there for those who lost their loved ones. We were having a really difficult time comprehending how to deal with life. We just couldn't imagine not having our family members, but we were forced to do that. It was a really hard time. Schools, as a professor, it was really difficult for me to not look at the faces of my students when I was teaching, and because there's a special connection between teachers and students when I'm teaching, and my students' eyes light up when they understand the concept that I'm teaching. And I couldn't do that anymore. The girls couldn't switch on their videos, and even when they do, their network was an issue for them. So it was constantly things that we were constantly being isolated, more than we could ever imagine. We had doctors whose faces we were used to seeing, and we couldn't visit doctors. Even if you were sick, you had to manage at home. You couldn't visit doctors because everything had to go, had to be in isolation. All of us were isolated, and the isolation didn't just affect the social life, it also affected our mental lives and our financial lives. And that did take quite a big toll on us, and we just couldn't, nothing was the same anymore for us. And a lot of questions came up for us. What happened? Why did it happen? Where did it all start? How did we go wrong? How do we fix it? When do we start going back to normal? What is normal anymore? So these are all the things that has been going through our minds. And all of us had to pick up so many skills over the past 1 year just to survive. And that has caused a lot of stress to all of us. And stress has not been the normal amount of stress that any of us go through, because of all the other things that has been happening in our lives. Stress, any minor stress that were handled easily in the past, in our past lives, like, it is no longer a normal.
Ms. Eunice, your audio is not. Can you please check your audio on the internet connection, please? Eunice? Hello? Ms. Eunice, I think there is a network problem in your side. I kindly request you please.
He said that every time that there is a inequilibrium or there is a disturbance in the equilibrium, that we that is the chaos that we experience, and we always strive to make sure that we go through that chaos and reach homeostasis somehow or the other. I guess if you can remember back to our school days, and we can remember back to the biology that we studied, our body is always striving forward for homeostasis as well, right? So that's what Antonovsky was also talking about. He said that we always look forward for we always work through the chaos that we have as constant in our life to reach the homeostasis that we always long for in our lives. He said that it can be done in 3 ways. Okay, he said that the only way that we make it through the chaotic period of our life is when we have a sense of coherence in our life. So he said that for us to have coherence, it runs across all. As a sociologist, whatever he says, you can apply it to an individual, you can apply it to any social construct out there, and as well as to any psychological concept that we have up here. So when it comes to well-being of our lives, when it comes to spiritual well-being, the sense of coherence is extremely important. And he says that the first thing that needs to happen for us to have uh, coherence in our life is comprehensibility. So when he says comprehensibility, he talks about how whatever you're feeling, all the senses that you are receiving, it has to somehow make sense to us in a cognitive level. It is not just in the physical realm that you are comprehending whatever that is happening. It also has to be in the cognitive level. You have to be able to understand and make sense of what is happening to us. So if we take the pandemic situation, when we talk about comprehensibility, I guess we will be talking about whether we are able to understand the fact that we had to be isolated, whether we were able to understand that we were undergoing changes mentally as well as socially that were putting a stress to us. Those are the things that we need, that comes under comprehensibility. The next area that he speaks about is the manageability of life. So he says that all of us, we have to manage somehow, right? Like, we don't just because we understand what we're going through, we just don't stop there. We try to manage it. And so that's where all the coping strategies that we have learned so far, all of that comes into play. We want to somehow manipulate the things that we have to, reach back to the homeostasis level, to reach back to being well, our wellness level to be on the good spectrum. So he says that all the things that you have accumulated so far, can be your personal and your internal strategies or the abilities that you have, also the external abilities that you have, all the external resources that are available to you. We use all of that to somehow make sense, to make all the things, all the senses that we are feeling, to make sense to us and to come together. And then finally, he says that when we are trying to manage things, when we are trying to manipulate it all, bring some sort of control, to an uncontrollable and uncertain situation, that is when we need to look into the meaningfulness of every little thing that we do. So the comprehensibility, the manageability, and the meaningfulness of everything that we do all comes together to help us, help ensure that we are well, that our well-being is back to normal. Okay, that's what he talks about. So in a lot of times, what happens is that when it comes to this meaningfulness aspect of it, that is when a lot of us sometimes, like, we are not able to make sense or make meaning out of the situation that we're in. We might be manipulating it, we might be managing it, we might be understanding what it is, but we're not always able to make meaning out of the situation that we are in. That is where spirituality comes in. So, uh, the, uh, Okay, so when we talk about spiritual well-being, I'm not going to talk about the only when we say spirituality, the first thing that comes up to our mind will be God and the religious aspect of things. I'm not going to be talking about that alone. Even though Ellison, when he spoke about, he defined spiritual well-being, he said that it is not just a relationship with God, but it's also your relationship that you have with your own self, your community, and the environment that you live in. So all of these things, it nurtures and it celebrates the wholeness of your life. It affirms your life and it celebrates the wholeness of your life. Now, I guess oftentimes, like, every educational institution will always have this line, we offer holistic education. I guess that's like that's the wholeness that spiritual well-being speaks about. Okay, so it encompasses everything. All right, so right. So Fisher was the person who he divided or Ellison's definition, and he said that if you want to talk about spiritual well-being, you have to talk about 4 dimensions of spiritual well-being. And he said about the personal dimension, the communal dimension, the environmental dimension, and the transcendental dimension. So what Antonovsky said was you have to find meaning. And Fisher says these are the 4 different areas in which you can find meaning to your life. So when we talk about the spiritual domain of, and when we talk about spiritual well-being, the personal domain comes first. So you find meaning to who you are as your life. Okay, you find meaning to the life that you're living currently, and you find purpose to that particular moment that you are living in your life. So if I say, like, let's take this particular situation. I'm a guest lecturer. I'm doing a webinar series. I'm the resource person, and a lot of you all are listening. So so the meaning of this particular moment of your life is to listen, to understand the little things that you can, and then somehow, like, make sense of it. Okay, so incorporate that in your life or something. That is the meaning of your life in this particular scenario. And when you think about the purpose of your life, the purpose will become right now. What is your purpose? Is to listen. If there are students here, you are fulfilling a request that has been placed before you by the faculty, and you're doing that. So that is the purpose of your life. As a student, you are completing the purpose that has been set before you. The things that you value in life. What is the things that you value? You value your education. What are I value my family. I value the things that. Uh, so those are the things that you value in your life. So all those things comes together, and those become your personal domain. So spirituality doesn't always have to mean God and God's aspects alone, but it also means what meaning you give to your life, what purpose you have for your own self, and the values you hold. How much aware are you of yourself? Are you able to understand this is the level of respect that I give to myself as well as to others? The level of awareness that I have towards my identity, who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, and how I'm going to lead my life. All those things, identity as well, comes inside the personal domain. When we concentrate on these things as well, sometimes it gives meaningfulness to whatever situation that we are going through. I guess that is what Viktor Frankl was also talking about when he came up with this existentialistic values. He spoke about that as well. Okay, the next thing is the communal domain. Okay, the communal domain of spirituality is the quality and depth of interpersonal relationship that we have in our lives. So in a lot of sense, communal domain is very important because the quality of interpersonal relationships in the current scenario is deteriorating. We know of so many broken families. We know of parent-child relationships that aren't really good, that aren't really given much importance. A lot of times, as siblings, we fail to see the needs of our own siblings. We fail to see what our siblings are, who our siblings are. We fail to understand them. We fail to give importance to them. And so the quality of the relationship that we have with our own siblings tends to fail. The quality of the relationship that we have with our friends. We all say, oh, this person is my best friend, that person is my closest friend. And oftentimes, we don't even know who they are. We just know the facade that they put up for us. We only look at the outward things, but there is no depth in the interpersonal relationships that we hold. So, focusing on the quality of the interpersonal relationships that we have. It's not about the number. In a world of social media, where number of followers counts and the number of likes counts in our life, when that is given more importance, I guess we need to stop for a while and think about how qualitatively how good those relationships are that we have with the ones that are around us. The next thing that comes in is the morality aspect, the culture, love, justice, hope, and faith that we have in humanity. Okay, so you might not belong to a particular religion, but there is always a sense of love that you will have for humanity. There is always one way or another that you will be able to define love or express love. Justice, no matter where you are, justice is a part of, it's almost inherent to any human being to long for justice. We all have hope. Even now, with the second wave of coronavirus looming over us, the second set of lockdowns and quarantines coming for us, with that looming, we still hope for a time when corona will be over, when the vaccines are given for everybody and everybody is safe and sound, and we all can go back to being normal. We still hope. Nobody needs religion for that. We still have hope, and we still have faith in humanity. During the most difficult of times, we saw that we could have faith in humanity because people stood up, people turned up for others, people were out there helping each other out. uh, it's always it's if we could only open our eyes a little bit and see, we always see that our faith in humanity, it is never going to waste. It's always out there and it's always important. And then comes the environmental domain. All right, so environmental domain is, I don't know how many of us are in touch with our environmental domain. How much are we, in touch with the nature that is around us? I'm sure a lot of the students, whoever is attending, wouldn't even have woken up 6 in the morning to look at the sunrise or anything along those lines. None of us take the time now to take a breather, relax, feel the wind. Nobody cares about the wind anymore. I guess the lockdown time, that was one thing that I did admire was, for the first time in my life, I actually stepped inside my garden and I actually admired the shape of the leaves and all of that. I have never done that. I would always be busy running around doing one thing or another, going out and meeting up with my friends. And I never ever took the time to spend time with nature. And spending time with nature naturally boosts your energy. It gives you a lot of good feelings and it makes you be a good person. And not just that, when you're just watching that, you're enjoying being in the moment and enjoying nature for what it is, naturally you become people who are sensitive to the needs of the environment as well. You're not just gaining from the environment, you're also out to give back to the environment somehow. So this is the kind of spirituality that this domain deals with, okay? And automatically this somehow connects us all together, and it gives us an inner peace, environmental domain. And then the final part of this is the transcendental domain. Okay, so this is the God part of it. And there are some of us who don't believe in God. So, but we might believe in a higher being, or we might, if I have a Star Wars fan or a Star Trek fan, the Force or whatever you want to call it, that is what you might believe in. So, what level of faith that you have in the transcendent person that you're believing in, the adoration that you have for that person, adoration in the sense that how much do you want to follow that the person or whatever you believe in, how much do you want to give space for that in your life, Worship is how much respect that you give, and then how much time do you spend on that particular aspect of your life. And all of these things actually play a role. It's actually influenced by which culture we are brought up in and the social context in which we are brought up in. Fisher actually did research, and he found out that with a lot of students who are in their high school ages, they just find it really, really hard to understand if you say like the transcendental person or like universal being or something like that. They find it very difficult to understand, because till they're teenagers, till they're in school, all they hear about is God and nothing else more. So their understanding of what God is comes into that particular area. Okay. So so just like that, like, we also have our own understanding of who God is and how we worship God and how we relate with our God. So these relationships that we have with God also influences every single aspect of our life. What we eat, what we do, what we say, what we don't say, how we maintain relationships. If we go back, it also influences how you relate with the plants and things around you. How much do you respect the environment also can be influenced by the transcendental domain, that importance of transcendental domain in your life. Sometimes, a lot of times, the relationship that you have with the transcendental being can highly influence how you look at morality, how you understand your culture, uh, where you draw the line on love. What is your definition of love? What is justice for you? How do you hope? And why you have faith in humanity? All of these things can also be influenced by the transcendental relationship that you have. Same thing here. A lot of times, our meaning of our lives can also be highly dependent upon our transcendental domain. If I believe heavily in a particular God, and that can become the center and the purpose of my life. All my values can, align with that. My meaning of my life, my identity, my self-awareness, and my self-identity can be highly dependent upon my transcendental domain. So yeah, so let's see as to okay. So Fisher, at the end of it all, he said that it's not just one or two of these domains that you need to focus upon, but somehow you need to balance all four of the domains. You need to balance all four out. And how will you figure out that all four has been balanced? If that's what you ask, it will be your lived experiences. What he says as lived experience is your activities, the things that you have been doing in your life. How do you handle stressful situations? How do you relate with another human being? What have you been doing so far actually reflects upon what you claim. Like, if you can say like, yeah, I'm highly I mean, my personal domain is my spiritual domain, but it has to be correlated with the way you have lived so far in your life. You cannot just claim something and live a different way. So the congruence and the coherence of your life has to be evident. Okay, that's what Antonovsky also spoke about. Right. Let's see how students can experience their spiritual life in their everyday life. In a lot of situations, we often forget that the spiritual realm of our lives is actually very, very integrated with the social realm of our lives. We oftentimes forget that, but it has a huge role to play in the way that you live your life. Okay, so for students, your negative moods, how do you handle your negative moods? So if someone is not, let's take the personal domain, if someone is not very sure of who they are and what their purpose is in life, and what their meaning of their life is. So when they are going through a rough patch, when they are going through, let's say, a couple failures, let's say just they didn't clear an exam, or they didn't do a particular presentation well, that's really, really gonna affect them. As a professor, as a teacher, I've seen a lot of my students who come up to me and say like, ma'am, I didn't do my presentation well. I don't even think I'm like worth it or something like that. Their self-esteem would have taken a setback. And I'm sure all of us as students at some point, we would have taken a setback like that. What Fisher says is that a lot of times with all the reactions that we have to a negative mood, how do we perceive it? How do we look forward to it? How do we move from it and then, not just experience it, like in Antonovsky's um, levels, he said that for sense of coherence, you need to first comprehend it. All of us, like, we are well able to comprehend the negative mood that we experience. And a lot of times we don't even move to the next level of managing, forget the meaningfulness of it. We don't go to the management level because somehow our spiritual well-being is not up to the par that we can move on to the next stage and say like, okay, let me try and manage it. What are the different resources that I have? The internal resources that I have? What are the external resources that I have? Are my friends there to support me? Are my teachers there to support me? What about my family? What are the things that I have learned? What do I have? Who am I as a person? All those things becomes a question mark when the spiritual well-being, the personal domain of the spiritual well-being doesn't is not up to the par. Perceived stress and depression, or students, we tend to get extremely stressed about the simplest of things in our lives. I was a student not very long ago, so I remember every single exam was a stress for me. Now that I look back at it, I was like, I always tell myself, you could have been a little more relaxed and a little more supportive and a little more compassionate to yourself. But I never was that. I used to push myself so much, and I used to, be a self-critic, like at my best. Okay, so those are the perceived levels of stress that we have, and every time the next thing, the depression part, I know all my students, whenever we do the Beck's depression inventory and we give it to them, and we're like, okay, girls, this is only for people who have clinical depression. You will stress that, we will stress that 101 times. And still our girls will get severe depression level because they just perceive themselves to be highly depressed. Their perception is twisted that way because somehow they have lost the meaning of their own selves, their respect that they have for their own self, the identity of who they are, the relationships that they have, and how to handle it, the resources that they have. They tend to forget that. So there you go. So whenever your spiritual health in that area gets affected, that happens again. Mindfulness and self-compassion and your satisfaction level. Again, when are you mindful? A lot of times whenever we speak about mindfulness, automatically we will all think about being in a meditative mode, being aware of what is happening to us, being aware of what we are doing, and all those things. So that is automatically connected with the transcendental domain of our spirituality, where like you have to come to a point where it's not just about you. There is a bigger picture. There is a bigger context. So that aspect of it is also affected when you're not able to look beyond yourself and focus on your life, right? Like taking a look from a bird's eye perspective. Sometimes we just look at it like, like horses look at things with their, with their things on, like, they keep their eyes like, narrowly focused. They can't look in their peripheral vision. They close it off, right? That's how we look at things, and you forget to be compassionate to your own self. You're never satisfied. I recently heard one of my students say, like, she's one of the toppers, and she said, ma'am, I am not at all satisfied with my marks. And she had lost just 1 mark. And that was because we don't want to give 50 on 50 for her. So that was the only reason that she got the less mark. But there was never a satisfaction level. It was only focused on her education. The other aspects of her life, the other domains of her spiritual life, they never developed enough. It never evolved. And so she had a really, really hard time being mindful or being self-compassionate or being satisfied with what she has. And in your academic achievement will automatically boost up if you have a very good spiritual well-being. Because when you are spiritually well, you will be someone who is going to be able to uh, understand the relationship that you have. You will be present in what you're doing. You will be able to move past the difficulties, and you'll say like, okay, this is the meaning of my life, and this is the purpose of my life currently, and if this is my purpose and this is how I'm going to work to fulfill it, you will be able to look into those things. When you are not spiritually well, you will not be able to look into it, and automatically your academics will take a setback. So that's the part for the students. Okay, so this is how all those areas of your life do get influenced if your spiritual well-being is not really working out for you. Okay, in workplace settings. Okay, so the workplace setting is, all of us have a really hard time with work. Uh, we sometimes, it's just too much for us. As a young person who has just started working now, I really find it very hard to balance out my work and my home life. Okay, so that's a balance that I'm still working on. So the one major thing that anybody who's working will talk about is whether they are satisfied with the work they are doing or not. Oftentimes, once the satisfaction is lost, uh, they are unable to work in that place. It becomes a hassle. It's just another thing that they have to do, something that they just have to check, off their checklist. They have to check it off their list, and it's a burden to them. So, she talks about three things that can bring job satisfaction. He said being engaged in our work. Um, so engagement in work is about how much meaning you give to the routine, because work is, one way or another, it's very uh, scheduled, and it's a routine process that you're going to keep repeating over and over again. Every day order one is a certain cycle, or there is a routine in which you go in, you punch in, you punch out, you do this X, Y, and Z are your lists, and you tick them off. But if you don't find meaning to the routine, that is when job dissatisfaction sets in. But if you find meaning to every single thing that we do in our life, in our everyday work, then that is that gives meaning. The next thing is you have to give purpose, and you have to give individuality to the things that you do at work. Your work might be routine, but every single day is even though it's a routine, it's a new day, and it's a new work that you're completing. It is never the same thing that you're going to be doing again. It might be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. So when we give individuality and we give purpose to the little things that we do at work, it becomes engaging. You keep yourself engaged, and you're looking forward to things, and that's when job satisfaction comes in. The second thing at work is the community sense that we need to have. When we all know, when a group of people are together, there is never going to be everybody saying yes to everything and everybody saying no to everything. There is going to be differences, but how do we bring about the sense of community? So if this comes back to the communal domain of fish, how Fisher divided it. In the communal domain, we talk about how the relationships that you have with every person that you meet, the quality of the relationship, the depth of the relationship, how much faith you have in humanity, how much justice you look forward to. All those things comes into that. So when you are building a community, the work community should be focused around the work that you are doing. The work community should be focused around the relationships that we have in work, should be focused on the work that we are doing. So for that, you need to have inner life connection. So when we talk about inner life connection, it's the organizational values that we hold. And as teachers, a lot of times the value that we hold is to impart education to the students who come to us. Okay, every year is a new batch, and we get the blessing and the opportunity to give them a wide range of things, and we get to encourage them to do a lot of different things. So our inner life connection should be with each other. As colleagues, when we work together, it should be on how am I and my colleague going to make sure that this student who's coming into my classroom makes the best use of that art. Even if they are being a very difficult student, how are we going to make sure that that student gets the education that is required to change that difficult behavior that they're having? So that's how we're going to form a relationship. The values that the organization holds at the end of the day is to make sure that every student gets a very good education, or every work that we do is going to be at its best. So whenever I relate with my colleague, it has to be in such a sense that it's of importance. Like every little thing that we do comes together. When I have that sense, then that's when the community sense increases and the inner life connections that I hold increases, and and our job satisfaction increases. So all of these things are the implications of our spiritual life coming together properly, and all four of our four domains of our spiritual life being in balance, and us being able to live life where our spiritual well-being is never at the setback. Because oftentimes, even in WHO's definition of well-being, it is about the physical, mental, and the social well-being is added, and the spiritual well-being has somehow been left off. Ignoring it can have implications on our social life and in our personal life and our physical life as well. So I guess I hope this session that you have heard, the small 4 domains, if you can remember just the 4 domains and make sure that you are putting in the effort to look into all 4 domains of your spiritual well-being, to make sure that you find meaning to your life, you find structure to it, you're able to comprehend it, somehow manage it, and bring about some change in your life, so that you're not just going through the phases of your life, but it's meaningful and it's effective, and you find joy in the way you live. Yeah, and with that, thank you.
Thank you, Ines Jemima ma'am. I'm Dr. Reena. I'll be facilitating the question and answer session for you. Before that, thank you so much for this wonderful session. You have completely covered the entire topic, how a person can really keep up his spiritual well-being. And you have talked about the different domains of spiritual well-being also. Thank you so much. Participants, the floor is open for question and answers. You can either unmute yourselves or you could put the questions in the chat box. Any questions from the participants?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Spiritual well-being. After hearing this session, I feel it's all about balance in life. It can be simply put as just balancing your life, balancing with the people around, with your balance with the nature, balance with everything around you. It can be simply stated as
Yeah, yes, that is correct. So it is not just the balance, but it should be a meaningful balance. You can't just have balance for the sake of balance, but it has to have meaning to it.
sorry, my mic just some network issue on my side. It was really good. You connected the dots really good.
Thank you.
We feel it, we know it, but connecting it in a theoretical manner and explaining it, that takes a lot of effort, and you did well. Thank you.
Any other questions from the participants?
Good evening, ma'am. I think you have done a beautiful presentation on this topic. This is something that is to be promoted among the students. So I would like to know if we have some steps that we can give to the students to promote inner life connection. Inner life connection to the students.
Okay, I was talking about inner life connection in the job satisfaction area, right? So inner life connection is basically finding similarity between the individual and the environment around them. So that's basically it. So in a work setting, it will become the organization's value, but for a student, it will become a college's value, the department's value. So maybe we can find things that the college and the student shares in common, inculcate that. I guess in that way they can find some sort of connection to the department and to the college in order to help them, somehow be more involved in the academic process. Automatically, that's going to help them with whatever they do. Their academic achievement will be higher.
It's
Does that answer your
fine, but
question?
I like to present you a situation of student unrest or emotional affliction or their difficulty to manage their own emotions.
Mhm.
So, in that kind of a context, can we not encourage the students to have a connection with themselves? And is there any way of giving them a procedure to get in touch with themselves?
I guess they need to first start looking at themselves as, like, meaningful beings, that they have some meaning to it. And I guess that has to be done with the relationships that they have as well. And a lot of times, the emotional distress that students do face is because somehow along the lines, adults around them have failed, and the relationship that they have with the adults have somehow failed in some manner. If we can focus on restoring relationships that they have with adults, or like keep good examples for them around them, I guess that should help them understand that they are meaningful as well, and there is a meaning to their life, and they are precious beings. And that should reduce the emotional distress for them to be able to start connecting not just with who they are, their own identity, and also to others around them.
Okay, then, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
kind of you. Okay.
There
Miss
is
Elise,
Yes, Abel?
another thing, transcendental well-being, uh, in this generation, especially in this generation, many people they are questioning a lot. When you believe in a higher power, when you believe in God, when you believe in some higher power, things become easier. That's easy way of proceeding with a challenge or a situation at really terrible time. You get hope, you get faith, you get that energy, strength to move on. But during these times, many people question transcendental domain or God or any higher power. What do you think of that, especially when dealing with students? So, what do you think about this generation and the present scenario?
Okay, what you said is very true. It does happen. Like students and the current generation, they don't tend to. They struggle to believe that even there is even a higher being. It might be they might look at it as an easy way out or even a coward's way out. But I guess if that is like a place where they don't want to go, I don't think that they need to be pushed into that, because the more we push anybody into anything, that's the one, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. They're going to go the other way around. So I would say that, once they focus on the other three areas, if they still find that there is an element of the transcendental domain that they need to work on, then they can very well work on that. Maybe there are 4 domains. That's why I said it is a sensitive topic, and there are 4 domains. If they start working on these 3 domains, maybe they can then move on to the other one if that is what they want.
Thank you for answering that question. We have a question from Muthu sir. According to Victor E. Frankl, meaning alone is essential in life, that is logotherapy, whereas today's webinar focuses on comprehensive spiritual well-being. Which approach is better?
Uh, so, uh, see, meaning of life is, at the end of the day, it is essential. Okay, it is not alone essential, because just because I have meaning to who I am doesn't mean like I'm not going to look into the resources, build relationships, or do anything along the lines and just shun it off. So that is going to be the base on which I will be building my life. So I guess it's a comprehension. That's why I said when it comes to the personal domain, they talk a lot about the meaning aspect of it, and that's where I connected Viktor Frankl when I was speaking about the personal domain. Does that answer your question?
Muthu sir, I hope the answer. I hope you got the answer for your question. So, thank you for taking this session and patiently answering all the questions. Yes. So, participants, any other questions from? Okay. Yes. Yes, you're getting a lot of positive feedback, and yes, and we are coming to the end of the session. Before we wind up the session, it is with a profound grief we have to say that one of the pioneers of NLP in Tamil Nadu, K. Aramdam sir, passed away due to cardiac arrest. And I request all the participants to please pay homage for him for 1 minute. Let's be silent and send our prayers for the departed soul. Yes. Definitely, we will be missing him, but we will never miss his learnings and the way he has started how to be enthusiastic and zeal. Though he was 80 plus, he never showed it. And definitely, we will missing you a lot, Arabdam sir, and your teachings will always be with us. Thank you so much. And he is such a legend personality in neuro-linguistic programs, and he is one of the very pioneers in Tamil Nadu on NLP trainings. And I request Shubha ma'am to share a few words about Sir and do vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Veena. I really feel very sad about this news which has been here. And he's one of the legend in NLP, and he's a master trainer. And in Tamil Nadu, if anybody talks about NLP, he will be the first person to be referred for all of us. And we have had an opportunity and fortunate enough to get trained one of the sessions, and I have been associated in hypnotic circle once, and I am really happy. And he's a very humble and very gentle and very nice human being to associate with. And he really go down to earth, teach a person on whatever he knows. I really terribly honor and feel happy about association with him. And I think we all must carry the learnings and also his spirit of learning. And he never, whenever there is a session, and you must see his enthusiasm to teach people. He will be like an small, a small person, and he used to involve in such a great enthusiasm. I really feel that it's very sad for the people around, and also the his followers and also students. But God has taken him, and it is something which we have to really give him a prayer for his Atma Shanti. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So true that to happen to attend his classes very recently, it is so shocking for me to just digest the news. And definitely, he underwent a procedure and he came for the class just to be with us. That shows his passion for uh, to teach. And definitely that's something the future generations have to learn from him. Thank you so much. And Dr. Chandra, can you please do the vote of thanks? Or Shubham, ma'am, can you please do the vote of thanks for today's speaker?
I'm there, Veena. So, I also give my heartiest and heartfelt condolences to his families and my sincere prayers for his noble soul to rest in peace. So now it's my pleasure to thank today's resource person, Ms. Eunice, for delivering a lecture on a very sensitive topic. And we do understand that it was hard for you to put all in hard for you to put all in one presentation. Thank you so much for explaining us all the 4 domains, and it has given another perspective to view the spiritual well-being. Thank you so much, and thank you all the participants for being present here in the session today. See you all in another session tomorrow, the same time, the same link. Until then, it's bye-bye and good night. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.